petty King Halstein would surrender his lands to the control of Ray, and everything was a-okay in Mercia forever. The fighting would continue into summer of 1004, when the decisive battle would take place in Shrewsbury, though it would take till the next spring before the Pope would call for an end to the crusade. And in August of 1006, Ethelfrith would cede control of all English lands to the Squad. Kleminz looked to establish early dominance over his empire by challenging King Angilbert of England to a duel over a minor crime. And in true FoddSquad fashion, he was victorious, setting the stage for a long and fruitful reign. 1021 saw the Squad facing both an insurrection from within and an invasion from Bohemia, both of which were handled quite easily. Looking to expand into the Mediterranean, Kleminz launched the invasion of Corsica in the spring of 1023. Landing directly on the beaches of Ajaccio, the Corsicans had no idea what hit them. Sensing opportunity, Randolph of France decided to press the claim of his brother Botolph on the Squad HQ, supported by Duke Admar of Flanders. And, not wanting to miss the party, a bunch of Catholics decided to revolt as well. With fighting almost done in Corsica, the bulk of the military was sent to the Barcelona region to deal with the Catholic rebels, just in time for Frank to decide he wants independence for his Kingdom of England. Mere days before the Corsicans could be reinforced by mercenaries, Kleminz was able to force a surrender and send the siege forces to England to start causing problems for Frank. In 1024, the Dobsonian line would form their own branch of the dynasty. The next spring, a stroke of luck would fall on Kleminz, as Frank was ousted from the throne of England by Misero and forced to leave the fight for independence. On the march to hunt down the leader of the Catholic rebels, Randolph would catch the Empire's forces at Colmar and win a crushing victory. The next month, independence fighters in the south would also win a victory at Carcassonne. Good news would come in October though, as the French capital of Rouen was captured by Squad forces. With help from their Icelandic allies, the Squad was able to claim a win against the French forces at Besançon, and a follow-up victory at Sully-sur-Loire. In a stroke of luck for the Squad, Filbert of the Squad ascended to the throne of Ireland and was more than happy to join the war effort. With his help, the independence faction was put in their place quickly, followed shortly thereafter by the Catholic rebels after the victory at Besançon. And finally, in 1029, Randolph would capitulate. The empire went deeply in debt to sustain the military, but at least it stayed together. In April of 1030, after years of war, some purely happy news would come, announcing the birth of Prince Chewy. Merely 2 years later, Kleminz would become a grandfather as Sol presented his own heir, Explosive Seal. To help refill the coffers after years of war, the Squad went raiding in Lotharingia in 1033. Between the loot and ransoming prisoners, the treasury finally looked like one befitting an emperor. The full coffers came not a moment too soon, as the Pope would declare yet another crusade for the Kingdom of England in 1036. The Catholics would take initiative by laying siege to Kent. The opening battles would happen at Canterbury and Rochester, where the Crusaders were resoundingly defeated. A new wave of enemies would land at Norfolk, but were quickly dispatched as well. The third and most significant wave yet would once again land in Kent, quite a march away from the troops still gathered around Norfolk. Glorious battle was waged at Canterbury, with many Christians laid to rest. Yet more Catholics arrived and battle was joined at Bath. Well, I say battle, but it was more like a slaughter. The final confrontation would come at Oakhampton, where the Catholics would once again give up on their fruitless obsession with England. In 1039, the Doreen branch had found so much success in Wales that they formed a second cadet branch of the house. For no particular reason, Kleminz conquered Phrygia in 1041, and then turned around and immediately set off to claim the Duchy of Toulouse from Burgundy. This would turn into a semi-hollow victory, as Toulouse was also being attacked by Spanish Muslims, though one siege and battle was all it would take to dissuade them from their interest in the region. Kleminz would suffer heartache in 1046 when he received news that his brother Noctum had passed. Not wanting Kleminz to have all the glory, Duke Mauger of the Aussy line decided to add Burgundy to the empire all on his own. Duke Renaud of the Waxu branch maintains firm control over the regions of Champagne and Brittany, and Adhemar of the Poly branch still holds all of Flanders. The Doreen family continues to play a major role in Britannia, holding lands in England and in Wales, and the Hoodles continue to run in Poitiers and Upper Burgundy. Despite being royal pains in the ass, the Dobsonians are doing well in Normandy and Berry. Frank rules well in Cornwall. Shame about the eye, though. No longer content to continue beating the Pope in England, Kleminz decides to start pushing towards the conquest of Italy in hopes of one day dismantling the papacy. This begins with the invasion of Lombardy. It wasn't much of an invasion, though, with Duke Herbert surrendering after just one fight. 2 more Italian counties would quickly fall, but whilst a third held out, King Adam of Burgundy decided now was the time to push for independence. Navarra would indeed fall while the rebels were laying claim to multiple castles in the heart of HQ, but with the Italian conflicts resolved, Kleminz was ready to turn his full attention to the independence fighters. The fight against Adam seemed hopeless, but in June, after successfully laying siege to Béziers, Adam's daughter Ida was taken hostage, and Kleminz used her to negotiate a cessation to the hostilities. Word would come from England that in April of 1059, Bob had been deposed as the King of England. To ensure the continued success of his brother, Kleminz would grant Bob the Duchy of Piedmont. Summer of 1060 would see 2 more Italian counties join the empire, and 2 more in the next spring. The Frank branch had lost their lands, so Duke Ascleton was granted a share of the newly added Italian territories to keep their line strong. Continuing the theme of taking Italian lands, 1062 would see the beginning of the invasion of Parma. At Licinia, the first battle would come with a strong victory for the squad, with a follow-up at Tortona while the Parmese capital was being sieged. And in 1063, after the siege of Tortona, Count Ubaldo would surrender his lands. Even knowing he wouldn't live to see the work finished, in 1066, Kleminz established a foothold in Sardinia to pave the way for its eventual full conquest. And whilst working on expanding those holdings, Kleminz would drink himself to death and pave the way for Sol to lead the empire. No longer a young man, can Sol adapt to the challenge of ruling a mighty empire and live up to the squad legacy? Find out next time.